Welcome back everyone to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch and today we're testing out a very fun little meme style deck with a very fun effect. Chandelure and its mountain roasting ability are incredibly good at milling your opponent's deck, and considering we have been playing with lots of attackers recently, I figured that it might be time to start winning with an alternate win condition. Obviously, Chandelure's mountain roasting is the key of the deck. We want to put Chandelure in play as many times as possible in order to utilize its ability, which reads, when you place this Pokemon in play, discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Now we play a 4-3-3 line of Chandelure, which means that with those 3 Chandelure and the 4 copies of Scoop Up Net that we run, we can theoretically mill up to 7 times. 7 times 3 is a relatively large number, 21 if you've been playing along at home. Add to that the Cursed Shovel, which is an item card that you can attach to your active Pokemon. When your opponent knocks it out, you discard 2 cards from the top of your deck. We are very quickly running into about 50% of the cards that our opponent has access to. We then also have another few disruption cards and mill cards, specifically the Misfortune Sisters, brand new supporter from Lost Origin, which looks at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck and discards any item cards that are found there, then shuffles the rest back in. This means that theoretically we can discard another 5 with Misfortune Sisters, and we have that option twice, which I really like. There are also cards like Cyllene in the list that allow us to get Scoop Up Nets back or to get Chandelures back, as well as Team Yell's Cheer, which will allow us to get supporters back. So theoretically, we can create a situation where we are milling lots of cards from our opponent's deck and there's nothing they can do about it. Now, you might say, Mitch, your opponent is going to knock out 6 of your Pokemon before you have the chance to do that, and you know what, most of the time you're probably right, but we have 2 cards that are going to help us in our endeavour to mill all of our opponent's deck. The first one is one you probably recognise, Miltank with Miracle Body. This card, very powerful, stops all Pokemon V from being able to damage it with attacks. Now, we've got Capture Energy in the list, but we're not going to attack with Miltank. Instead, we're going to put it in the active when our opponent can only attack with Pokemon V, V-Star, or V-Maxes, and hopefully stop them from being able to deal any damage. Worst case scenario, if our opponent does have a way to knock out Miltank, we can also use the Snorlax from Pokemon Go. That is the one that has the block ability, which prevents our opponent's active Pokemon from retreating. Combine that with a card like Boss's Orders, and you can put any Pokemon into the active and force them to be stuck there. For example, Crobat V, a card that's not going to be able to attack in most decks, can be locked in the active by block Snorlax. We also play 3 copies of Galar Mine in the deck, just in case they get around the Snorlax, to force our opponent to find extra ways to retreat, and combining that with all of our cards, hopefully we've got enough disruption to stop our opponent from playing the game, and to mill their entire deck. In the worst case scenario, we can use cards like Yellhorn to be able to confuse our opponent and leave their victory to chance. 50-50 chance to flip heads on confusion. And you know what? Sometimes we'll just take those odds. Overall, I really like this list. I think it's a lot of fun. It's obviously not going to win every single game that you play, but it's definitely got potential. And if you want to check it out, there's a list down in the description. You can copy that whilst you're there. And also, whilst you're there, like the video. If you do appreciate this kind of stuff, I'd appreciate having you passed. Subscribe whilst you're there, and we'll jump in to a couple of games with this Chandelure list. And it's pretty good. Alright, we're going. It's time to see if Chandelure can actually win a game. I think it should be able to, although I don't know what we're playing up against quite yet. And hopefully we have a decent turn here. It's a little bit of an awkward hand, I'll say that much. It's a little bit of an awkward hand, but we are playing against Zeraora, so I feel like as long as we can bring up something that doesn't have energy, we should be able to win this game. We'll see how we go. Frankly, I'm not fully convinced that Chandelure can do it, but we're gonna give it a crack. This game up against Magix AU on the standard ladder of Pokemon TCG Live. If you haven't heard, there is going to be a release worldwide of Pokemon TCG Live before the end of this month. So by November 30th or 31st, whichever one comes first, if 30th even exists, frankly, 31st? November the 31st? I don't know. End of the month. Regardless, we should be able to see this particular game in action around the world. So hopefully it comes to a planet near you. We've got a capture energy onto the Snorlax. This will allow us to find a basic. I like Litwick here. I also like grabbing Radiant Venusaur if we can. We might play down the Galar Mine and then go for an Ultra Ball. I will discard those two cards, not necessarily required. We can throw down the Venusaur and even play the Bruno if we want. I think it might be worth it. I don't think that our opponent is realistically going to be able to get out of the active this turn, but frankly, we're not realistically doing too much this turn either. We're just going to pass here. No draw from the Venusaur is a little disappointing, but at least we should be okay with the board state that we've set up, as long as we can evolve the Litwick next turn. If we can't evolve the Litwick, then we're probably in a little bit of strife, but hey, we'll see how we go. Now, these games are likely to be quite long. Because obviously we're stalling, we're trying to force our opponent to deck themselves out, and frankly, there's not a huge amount that we can do bar kind of set ourselves up to make our life as difficult for our opponent as possible, which is what we've done, but we're not being as proactive as I'd like just yet. We will at least get to play Misfortune Sisters next turn, provided that no other supporter comes up, and that's really, really cool, because Misfortune Sisters is potentially going to accelerate our win condition. If we see some item cards, for the top 5 cards that we look at, we might be able to get a little bit of discard going, preferably a switch or another switching style card. I don't like the fact that Cancelling Cologne has been played. It means now this Radiant Greninja can retreat, but it will need to attach an energy. Galar Mine being in play is going to slow down our opponent from retreating as they'd like to. And we've been given a pretty solid hand, frankly. This is okay. We've got a Litwick, we've got a Pyukumuku, we've got a Bruno. If they do take a knockout, we're going to be drawing 7 cards. So I'm feeling relatively confident that we can draw into something this turn. And if we don't, then we've at least got ourselves a pretty strong board, which I am a fan of. Doesn't look like they've found an energy with which to retreat. Maybe they're just trying to figure out what's going on. Obviously, the block from our Snorlax has been removed with Cancelling Cologne, but the Galar Mine is the critical thing at the moment. It's increasing Greninja's retreat cost by 2, which means now it has 3 retreat. -2 from the air balloon means that a single attachment gets them out of there, but it doesn't look like they have it. Does not look like they have access to it, so we're going to try and set ourselves up as best we can. We'll Pyukumuku here. We will play down this Miltank. Then I think we're probably okay to just Bruno for 4. And wouldn't you know it, we've set up a hand that's pretty much exactly the same as the one that we had last time. Maybe our opponent Marnies us again. Maybe they Marnie us again. But here's the thing, we're winning on card count. We're winning on card count. They've used plenty of cards. We've used less. There's heaps of time. We just need to play this one slowly. We will get there eventually. We will get there eventually. That's all we can hope for. Now, very quickly. They've got the Stormy Mountains. They can't retreat because of block. They haven't got the Cologne this turn, so they might still need to play a switch card. Doesn't look like they've got it straight away. Very quickly, I'd like to say thank you very much to all the people who have continued to watch the videos over the last couple of days and weeks. Appreciate it. We are very close to a brand new set, Silver Tempest, coming out next Thursday on Pokemon TCG Live. That means a brand new standard ladder and a brand new battle pass for us to play. If you have got access to Live and you want to give it a go, now is the best time for us to get started. I really think that you should give it a crack if you have the opportunity. Magic's AU going for some more draw here, so accelerating our win condition for us, which is very kind. And you can see the power of this block Snorlax with decks like this Zeraora V-Star V-Max deck that only really has a couple of outs to retreat. They need to make some really awkward plays to try and get their Pokemon out of the active. You can see here, they're using Boss's Orders to knock out the Radiant Venusaur. That hasn't really done too much this game, but they have to use the Boss to get the Snorlax out of there. If they don't, then there's not a huge amount that they can realistically do. And now we can pivot again into a different defensive Pokemon. This time Miltank will go into the active because our opponent cannot knock this Miltank out, or at least as far as I'm aware, they can't knock it out. Doesn't mean that it's impossible, which is why I'm kind of thinking this Curse Shovel might go on the Snorlax. I kind of do want that in the active at some point, but I'm just going to play Misfortune Sisters here, milling 3 cards, a Rod, an Ultra Ball, and the Trekking Shoes. That's pretty good. I'll throw down the Snorlax here and pass. And hopefully we can draw into some cards. We still haven't seen our Chandelures yet. We haven't even seen any Lampents, which is very frustrating. I'd really like to evolve them, because, you know, the video's named after it. That would be fantastic if we could just play the card that was in the thumbnail. But, for the moment, we can just sit behind the Miltank. We can hope for the best. We've got them down to 17 cards, so a couple of explosive Lampents into Chandelures could really create a positive position for us. It's just a matter of whether our opponent can find a way to get around this Miltank. They've already used Boss at least once, so the chances of them having a whole bunch extra to get around this one Miltank is actually really quite slim. So there is a world where, to be honest, we just win because this Miltank doesn't get knocked out. But I don't think that it's guaranteed. And in fact, it looks like our opponent is setting up to place 60 damage on a bunch of different Pokemon. That will be very frightening, because it will knock both of the Litwicks out, which we don't want. The question is, can they find the V-Star? There's the Ultra Ball, so they definitely have an opportunity here. They're going to get rid of the Battle Pass and Marnie and grab that Zeraora V-Star. So that will be on the bench, ready and raring to go. And it's V-Star power, its attack, 60 damage, times 4 times, I think it was. I can't remember exactly how many, but very, very strong, and will kind of create an awkward position for our board, but we've been Marnied. Okay. I think if we draw into a solid hand here, and this is a solid hand, we should have an opportunity to get ourselves into a strong position. We've got Boss's Orders, so if we find a Scoop Up Net, we can get rid of the Miltank and put the Snorlax in the active. We have Pyukumuku, we have Lampent, we have pretty much everything that we need. Let's see how we go. A Scoop Up Net, very good. We can throw down the Lampent, we can use Scoop Up Net if we want to. I think it's worth it. We'll Scoop Up, put the Snorlax with Gormandize in the active. And now we'll just start to thin. We'll give our opponent this knockout. I don't really mind it. They can take this one. That is a-okay. We'll play the Snorlax's Gormandize ability, and look at this hand. We've got a lot more resources. Our opponent only has 5 cards left. They need to take 5 prizes mightily soon. And we can theoretically mill a couple of cards from them here. We can use our limited resources in hand to try and find ourselves a Chandelure, evolve the Lampent, discard 3 cards, and since they've Greninja'd, they actually only have 3 cards left. We should be able to win this game if we can find ourselves a single copy of Chandelure. Now, it's obviously not the way that we wanted to go, but we can definitely get the win, and that's the thing, right? Our opponent has done most of the work for us. On the plus side, that means a slightly shorter game, which I'm all about. We will wait and see what we get off of the top deck here, but we've definitely got Pyukumuku and Birdkeeper to try and draw that Chandelure, or we could just top deck into the Evo Incense right here. We could just get it straight away. Oh boy, well, I mean, we've done well. We're gonna mountain roasting here, throw away the last cards in deck, and then pass the turn, and that is a victory to us. Not the way that we wanted to go. I'd really like to evolve some Chandelures, please, but we still won by deck out, and that's no mean feat. Game 2, we'll see if we can't get ourselves another win, but this time, maybe we can use a Chandelure. That would be great. We'll attach the Capture Energy to the Snorlax, and we're going to go and grab ourselves a copy of Litwick. We'll throw that down onto the bench. We'll go for the Evo Incense now. We'll grab a Lampent, just so that we know that we have access to it. And then we can Gormandize for 2 more cards. Radiant Venusaur, very, very good one to get off at the top there. And now we turn our attention to our opponent. What are they going to play? A Miltank with Miracle Body. Not going to be a problem here. A Greninja. This might be a Blissey deck, potentially. This one is Ultra Arceus. That's Jordan who's playing against me now. And yes, he is going to be playing a Blissey deck. So this will be very interesting because they don't really want to play down a huge amount of benched Pokemon, but they've they've always got to move between attackers, right? So they're not going to play down enough bench Pokemon for us to realistically lock them. But if we throw like Miltank in the active, they need to attack with Miltank, they need to retreat the Blissey. There's situations here where I feel like we can probably get a victory. So the question now is, what is the best route of play with this hand? We've got Bird Keeper, we've got Boss, we've got Venusaur. We play that down and then Bird Keeper into the Venusaur. See what that gives us. I like the extra energy in hand. We might scoop the Venusaur up, put the Snorlax back at the active, and then play that Venusaur back down. We'll just set our board up a little bit, try and put ourselves in a position where we might be able to create a kind of a state where we have lots of options. I like grabbing the block Snorlax here to force that Miltank to stay in the active. Maybe it's worth scooping up the Snorlax, but to be brutally honest, we probably want to just draw cards. And now with another Lampent and an Ultra Ball, we look like we might be able to actually use Chandelure to mill some cards. So we'll see how we go. We've got a nice little chain going on here. In saying that, we've just been Avaried, so it's a little frustrating. We'll get rid of a Litwick and the Snorlax, I suppose, that we just threw down. That's a little bit disappointing, but we can still play the Lampent. We can still play the copy of the Chandelure. It looks like we're just going to see a Miltank route into the Snorlax. And we've top-decked the Chandelure. That's nice. Means we can save the Ultra Ball for later. Let's throw down the Chandelure now. We'll use Mountain Roasting. Yes, we would. 3 good cards. More than happy to see those in the discard pile. There's also an argument here that we might use Misfortune Sisters. And getting rid of a couple of Quick Balls, not ideal. Like, they're probably not going to be used by Blissey. But I'm happy to get rid of them. I like this. I like the Litwick off of the Quick Ball. That means next turn we can Scoop Up Net the Chandelure, and hopefully we can create ourselves a winning position. And we've got every single boss in our deck in our hand. Every single one. Hopefully we have a nice and easy time of it. Our opponent has a very big hand, which means that they are going to be able to do pretty much anything that they want here. As long as the thing that they want is not a knockout on the Lampent, and it isn't, then we are in a good spot. So just a knockout on the Gormandized Snorlax, that will accelerate a few energies to Blissey. And now is the time when we probably want to start trying for a, well, like a Miltank in the active, I think is probably the best way to go. We've got the Yellhorn, so we can confuse this Blissey. That's definitely good. We probably want the Miltank, which we get off of the top deck, so I'm happy with that. We're going to throw the Yellhorn down. Both active Pokemon are confused. We'll use the Pyukumuku to find an extra card. And then we can scoop up our Chandelure and put that Miltank in the active. I like that. It's obviously going to create some drama, some issues for our opponent. They may find that they cannot attack this turn if they want to use a boss or something like that. And removing Avery and Marnie off of the top deck there with Chandelure is very, very nice. We have the Scoop Up Net for next turn. We can pass. Hopefully they don't have a way out of the active. I mean, 4 energy to retreat is a lot. And that's the amount that they're going to need to do to be able to get out of the active. Natural Cure, of course. Blissey's ability, Natural Cure, healing that confusion. I've literally never seen that ability trigger before, so there you go. You've seen something new today. Boss's orders around the Blissey, and the Lampent is the target. That's quite frustrating. It means we won't be able to Chandelure this turn. We can still scoop up, obviously, we can scoop up the Chandelure, evolve into Litwick, but our big issue is that Lampent is in short supply. We only have 2 of them in the deck at the moment. Our 3rd is in the prizes, and since we don't take any prizes, it is going to be a very difficult time trying to get that to happen. So, what's our play? We probably want to Scoop Up Net and grab that Chandelure back. We can throw down the Litwick, we can evolve into the Lampent. Then we might Quick Ball, get rid of a boss. We don't need 3 in our hand. And we'll just grab Pyukumuku here. And we'll see what that card gives us. Another quick ball. Okay, cool. We will quick ball away a quick ball and grab ourselves, I think, a copy of Block Snorlax. We have Boss's Orders in our hand, so we can potentially lock something like that Radiant Greninja in the active. We won't try and do that now. Instead, we will simply pass the turn and utilize Radiant Venusaur's Sunny Bloom to draw a card. But we're in a position now where our opponent is kind of like, we can't take a knockout on the Miltank. They need to use lots of Boss's Orders to try and get around the board here. They might be able to retreat into the Miltank, but there's a lot of energy that will need to go here. And if they do knock the Miltank out, whenever they do, I'm just going to chuck the Snorlax in the active, gust out that Greninja, and hope that there are no switch cards for our opponent. And if that ends up happening, if we're in a position where we can do that, just lock that Greninja in the active for a bit, then the mill will happen organically. So we'll try and get it. We'll try and get it to happen. We've got the Chandelure, so we will discard 3 more cards from the top of our opponent's deck. None of those particularly useful for our purposes, but that's okay. What I will do is I will attach this Capture Energy, I think. What do I even need to? Do I really need to? This is kind of an awkward one. I think we might boss, actually. We'll just boss out the Blissey and make it so our opponent can't knock us out easily. We'll Capture Energy onto the Miltank and grab ourselves... I mean, nothing. We don't really need anything here. And then we will end the turn. Now we force our opponent again to find another switch card. If they can find the switching card, they can attack us again next turn. But we can simply block and boss again and hope that it works out. Looks though like our opponent is going to go for the 4 energy discard for a second time and take the knockout with a Miltank of their own. So we'll see whether or not we can pull off this Snorlax play. Plus we have the Scoop Up Net, plus we have an Evo Incense. Unfortunately, we won't be able to use that Evo Incense just yet, but we do have a whole bunch of cards. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. Let's go for Pyukumuku first. Galar Mine, very nice. So even if they use Boss to try and get around the block ability, it'll still be quite difficult to retreat. There's an argument actually of just leaving this Snorlax in the active, to be brutally honest. Let's grab a Chandelure off of Evolution Incense. We'll just thin that card out of the deck, scoop up the Chandelure, and start setting up our Lampent for next turn. The thing that our opponent did early on when they bossed out the Lampent actually has created a lot of issues for us here, where they're actually in a position that is quite good in terms of their ability to prevent us from milling them. Looks like they're just going to go for a round. They've attached to the Blissey and routed, so that's good for us. We can use Chandelure again, and we can use Bruno if we want to. We'll go for the Mountain Roast. Yes, we would love to. 3 Pokemon plus a switch card. Plus a switching card. That means it might be useful to gust up this Radiant Greninja right now. Do I do that, or do I just play the Bruno and draw some more cards? There's an argument for both here. I can't realistically use Ultra Ball. I think we're going to go for the boss into the Greninja. And since they lost that switching card, they're going to be 1 extra switch card down. I like our chances of this Greninja staying in the active. If it doesn't, they come out with the Blissey and attack. That's as it is. It just is the way that it is. There's nothing much that we can do about that. If they do get locked in the active, then again, we've got some time to organize ourselves, try and draw some more cards, and put ourselves in a position where we can mill them for the game. Our opponent only has 9 cards left in the deck, but 13 in hand is a concern. If one of those cards is Marnie, then we are in trouble. So enough energy on the Blissey V to get a knockout. Can they get the Greninja out of the active? Is the big question. No, they cannot. No retreat. Okay, so let's see here. I think that we are in a position where now we can probably Bruno this turn. I like that Bruno. We're going to keep the cards and Bruno ourselves away. We've got Rescue Carrier here. This is great. We can grab a Litwick and a Lampent. We can put the Litwick down. The Lampent can go on the Litwick, and we've got the Evolution Incense for next turn. So we're in a really strong spot. Barring something horrific happening, we should be able to again grab ourselves a few cards off of that mountain roasting. Our opponent does have that little bit extra that they can work with now. Path to the Peak means that now that Greninja could potentially get out of the active. A boss would need to be played though. If they do play boss, which they do, which card do they pick? Do they pick the Chandelure? Do they pick the Lampent? Where do they go? The Lampent again? No. Okay. Oh, this is not ideal at all. They're going to get another prize, which I really don't like. We can at least throw the Snorlax into the active. We can put a copy of Cursed Shovel on it, but man, really, really unlucky just not being able to use that Lampent and evolve it into a Chandelure means that we are in a bit of strife. We have to hope that our opponent runs out of cards. We probably need to use Chandelure at least one more time. Like, at least one more time, I think. And to rub it in, we draw it as well. Okay, what's our best play here? I think Cursed Shovel is a good choice. I think Cyllene is a good choice. When you flip double heads on Cyllene, it's always a good choice. Okay, so what cards do we need? We need Lampent. We probably need Miltank. What options do we have? We could go for Rescue Carrier. We could go for Scoop Up Net. I like Scoop Up Net. To get the Chandelure. I like that. What else could we do? Let's grab... We definitely need the Miltank, because we need to slow our opponent down. And Miltank allows us to do that. I think it's literally just Miltank and Lampent. I think it's literally just those two cards. So we play down the Miltank next turn and then draw into the Lampent afterwards. I think this is pretty much it. This is all that we realistically have. The only option that we realistically have to do. So we've got the Miltank. We've got the Lampent. We've got Birdkeeper as well, which is good. Hopefully our opponent knocks out our Snorlax without being really cruel. I don't see a way that they have any more copies of Boss after the few that they've played already, although they may. They may very easily have multiple copies. There's a lot of double turbo energies on this Blissey, by the way. And two more cards. Okay, so our opponent needs to take a prize. That means we must put Miltank in the active. We know we have Miltank. We put it on the top of our deck with Cyllene. So we are guaranteed to have that Miltank. We can Birdkeeper into it, which is fantastic. We draw into a copy of our Lampent as well. So let's go for it. Miltank in the active. Cursed Shovel is good. I like Cursed Shovel. I mean, at the moment, Cursed Shovel isn't really going to help us too much. I'm going to put it on the active regardless. And then I think we're just going to end the turn. We don't draw cards because of Path. Our opponent draws a card. This is a little frightening. There's a lot of things that our opponent could do here to create some drama. If they retreat, which it looks like they're going to do, retreat into Miltank and attack with Route, how much damage are they dealing? 10 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 minus 20 is 50. Okay, we might be able to sneak a victory here, because the maximum amount of damage that our opponent can do next turn is 50. So we might have one more turn, provided that there are no more bosses left in our opponent's deck. Now, I don't know whether that is the case or not, but we are going to go hard and hope for the best. We'll put down the Chandelure. 3 cards will be milled from the deck here, and we will see. Will we... The boss was in the 3! Okay. And a Marnie as well. I think we might just have stolen it. If they had one more boss left, there's no way they played 4 boss, right? They've played 3. Well, they've played 2. I'm going to chuck boss and boss back in the deck, I think. Because the only way that we lose here is, like, if our opponent Marnies and then has, I don't know, if they Marnie and then they, I don't know how much energy they have left. This is okay. There's a lot of cards they've used. They've got 5 energy in the discard pile. They've got all of their bosses. Surely there's 3 of them there. No cards in deck. A massive hand. Capture energy goes onto the Miltank. And a route. I think we just did it. We just did it. I have no idea how we managed, even with the knockouts on the Lampent twice, and having prized one, we still managed to find a way. Is Chandelure good? Could Chandelure be good? So there you have it, you can win with pretty much anything on Pokemon TCG Live, even Chandelure. I reckon it's a pretty solid card, to be brutally honest, and hey, it's definitely a lot of fun to mill the cards from your opponent's deck. Thank you very much everyone. If you've watched all the way to here, you probably like the video. If you do, then please like the video, that would be great. Also subscribe if you haven't already, and if you'd like to join the channel members over here, there is a join button down below. As little as $3 Australian a month. It's barely any money at all, frankly. I don't even know why I bothered to ask for it. Also, if you want to check out another really fun casual deck on the Pokemon TCG Live ladder, then you better check out Hisuian Arcanine, which is hovering over here. I just love this card. Look at this. It's incredible, right? What a piece of artwork.